Next up, three very talented people from SCTV, and you see them on NBC on Friday nights on a show called SCTV Network 90. Joining us are three veteran members of the group, Joe Flaherty, Catherine O'Hara, and Eugene Levy. Would you please welcome Joe, Catherine, and Eugene from SCTV. Whoopee! You've done syndication for some years, and now you're on the television network. What's the difference in doing that 90-minute program for us as compared to the one that you do or did for syndication?
It's longer.
Is that the only difference?
Basically, yes. But with comedy, that's very important. You know, length is crucial, and brevity is important. And now we have 3 times as much to get on. And joke after joke, or, you know, scene after scene after scene after a while. So it's a matter of restructuring it, repacing it, so that the comedy doesn't start to wear heavy on you.
You started when, May 15th, Eugene, so you're about 4 or 5 shows into the run now. Do you find yourselves really working harder, having to put out more material and maybe straining the creative engines a little bit?
No, we're under a time gun, you know. There never seems to be enough time to get the shows written because we never had enough lead time to get the thing going. But we're working hard. We're trying to improve the show, you know, and we have 9 shows to do for our first cycle, and hopefully we'll get into kind of a rhythm by the end of 9 shows. You know, I don't think our show's any different now on network than it was in syndication in terms of what we're doing. We're just doing.
Do you have the freedom? You know, all networks have things that the citizens identify as censors, and we call them the broadcast standards people. Is it a little tougher to slip things past the censors for the network than it was, say, for the independent producers?
Well, we're censored right at the beginning now. They read through our scripts and censor us, where we used to just find out what was censored after. I mean, later on, they just wouldn't show the show, or they'd cut the piece out of the show, and we'd find out why.
We have a standards and practices guy right there where we do the show now, and Catherine said that she saw him walking down the hall one day, but she didn't know who he was. But she saw scribbled on his notepad, so she assumed that that must be the standards and practices.
That's a censors guy.
Yeah.
We also did
a few notes.
We did a quilata piece, which is anointment. Do you know what quilata is?
No, I don't. What is quilata? I have no idea.
You're clean, then. Quilata is an ointment used for scabies and lice and crabs. And
no, I don't use that.
We did a You usually find out if somebody knows what it is.
Yeah.
Quite a popular product.
Yeah.
But we did a Donnie and Marie takeoff.
Oh, Donnie and Marie takeoff.
Using quilata. Go quilata. Go quilata. To get those bugs out of your skin and keep on living. We had lice and scabies and crabs, and they cut crabs out of the script right from the beginning. They said we wouldn't get away with it. And supposedly they had a 2-hour argument on the phone and finally got it back in.
That's the amazing thing to do. They get on the phone and say, well, now, listen, Jim, what about crabs? You know? Oh, what are crabs? You know, and they go back and forth. I mean, you know, it's great.
Sounds fine to me. Crabs, lobsters. No, crabs.
The piece was so fast, no one heard it anyway.
All right. Let's give a little example of the work that these people do and that you can see on NBC on Friday nights. I think we have a couple of clips of different characterizations. Let's go to the videotape then. This is from SCTV Network 90, featuring these 3 people, and I think others. Here it is.
Girl with a build. If I'm gonna fall in love with her, it's got to be realistic for me.
Realistic? I mean, it's exactly what I'm going for, you know?
That is funny. Oh, that's funny. And I just heard from the control room, they're taking out all the crabs we said.
No, really?
Yeah, crab. Now wait. Now let's try it a different way. Crab apple tree. Don't sit around and crab about things the way they are. I feel crabby tonight.
I got a bad case of the crabs.
No, we'll be right back after this. We don't want to crab about them anymore, do we? Okay. It says here, and I should know this to be true because I wrote it down there, you do your show without a studio audience.
Right.
Well, now, don't you depend upon the reaction from people to pace yourselves? How do you do that?
After the fact. We get it after, that's all. We depend on each other, that's all. If you laugh at the brainstorming, then hopefully you keep on writing on something. And if you get dead response from everyone, you don't pursue it.
If it just kind
You're
of sits
comfortable
there.
being honest with
Yeah.
each other, yeah. Well,
We
it
have to
sits
get a
there.
response from each other when the piece is being written and put together, so you know that it's good before you go into the studio. And hopefully you know that it's good once you're in the studio, so you don't necessarily need the feedback, although it would be nice. Yeah.
I know that when SCTV was first announced by NBC, there were the inevitable and oft-quoted comparisons to Fridays over on ABC and Saturday Night Live SNL here. How fair are those comparisons? Because you really aren't doing those shows, you're doing your own program. Yet invariably when somebody's satirical or very, very funny or bright or new, as you all are, come on, they say, well, no, this is like Saturday Night Live in this way, and maybe it's like Fridays, and they draw these comparisons. What does that do to you?
I think at first, when we first started doing our show, which was in 1976, I think we would have been pleased by that. But now we've been doing it so long, we have our own format, our own little life on the show, and it's the show. So I think the fact that we're on late night on the weekends and we're 90 minutes, it's inevitable, you know. So we just hope we're going to drive him down the toilet. That's all. We're a pretty competitive bunch, actually.
We're not bitter about it either.
Is there, like in you, the competition with Fridays? We're gonna get those guys, gonna get those gals over there?
No.
Not
No.
for me.
I don't think so, no.
No, really, I don't think so. Because we just do our own show. We always have. We've never done. The flavor of our show is different. It just really reflects ourselves and what we think is funny. Because we don't tape in front of an audience, and because we're not on every week, we could never do things that are contemporary. Because our show is on. You know, you tape it 4 months in advance, so you couldn't do anything that's happening in the news.
I mean,
you know?
in syndication, you never do a Christmas show. You never do a Thanksgiving show. Never do an Easter show because you never know when it's going to be
That's
on.
right.
Yeah.
We've talked about doing a holiday show where we just do them all in
Generic
one show.
holiday show, yeah.
But that's true. We did the one time we did a piece on Elvis, and just right after we finished it, before we were ready to, release it, he died. So you just can't, when you're shooting that far in advance, you can't be that topical. Things just fizzle out,
Sure.
We look at some of our old stuff now, and anytime we made a reference, like to President Carter, it just doesn't, Carter, Welcome Back Carter, we did a parody on that. And it just obviously doesn't hold up today.
Mm-hmm. We stay away from very old people.
What are your favorite characters that you do? Do you have personal favorites that you enjoy doing, that you like to do?
Bobby Bidman?
Bobby Bidman is a favorite character of mine. It's a Vegas comic, kind of early 60s, the kind of comics I used to see when I was watching television, growing up on television, which is what our show is about. So he is a character that has his own catchphrase, like Marty Allen has "Hello there," as a little catchphrase. And Bobby's catchphrase is, "How are ya?" And Tom, he gets into things as a comic, if I may, in all seriousness. Bill Murray was on just before, and he's a marvelous, marvelous comedian, and said some very good things about us. But I want to say something about Bill Murray right now, if I may. That show was the forerunner of what we are today, and I think that show has to be acknowledged, and I think that comedians like Bill, who started it all for us, it's just marvelous, and I think we owe them a debt of thanks.
Right on, man. Right on.
I love you, Bill Murray. I want to bury your children.
Do you have a favorite that you like to do?
Lola Heatherton.
Who?
Lola Heatherton.
Okay.
I'm a Vegas singer dancer. I mean, she is. No, I mean, sorry, she is. I got out of that quick.
The combination
Basically, I
between
just laugh and say I love people. I want to bury
You're
their
a silent
children.
laugher, aren't you? You just like to... You're a silent laugher. Really, in taping, does she laugh silently?
I
she
don't laugh
rarely
when we
laughs at
tape.
all.
Oh.
We have, speaking of Bob, the reason why I mentioned Bobby Bidman was because we were doing we're going to do a thing. We saw Pat Cooper on the show one night. On your it was amazing. Do you remember,
Yes,
remember
he
that show?
jumped on the entire Las Vegas community. And we're going out there next week to have them thank us for having Pat Cooper on, calling them all a bunch of nerds. It'll be a nice week in Las Vegas.
Well, we have that coming up in a
we're doing
scene. We
very
wrote a
big
scene around
based
that.
on
so
that interview,
you'll
as a matter
see.
of fact.
Well,
Should be interesting.
should be, and we'll be here to find out. SCTV will be on the air starting a week from tomorrow night when they come back to continue their season, their cycle, with SCTV Network 90. And
Right,
you probably are thrilled with the title of that show. I want to thank Joe and Kathleen and Eugene for being with us tonight. Can I call you Gene just once, big man?
Please.
Okay, thank you, Gene. We all forget it. Back with Elton John after these announcements. Thank you all very much.